webcasting, but there's no link for people to go to. Yeah, I think you're right. Trying to get on the webcasting audio.
How are you? Nice to see you. Oh, is that where you?
Good to meet you.
Eric? Eric, are you Eric?
No.
Oh,
Eric is
where is Eric?
Well, maybe we ought to sit right here.
Where's Eric?
He's talking
Okay,
to the parole
thank you.
officer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I thought you were Eric.
Oh, no.
What's your name?
I'm George. I'm the communication director. I do
What's your
the
name?
George, Mr. Tim.
Oh, hi, George. Penny Falcon from LADWP.
Oh, okay. That's what I do.
Thank you.
Okay, you bet.
We didn't know it was your
I know. I'm like, he's got to be here. Is Matt Good morning. In addition to being in a strange remote room that makes us feel like we're way too far away from you, we're having a little bit of trouble getting the internet to connect, and that is an important part of our process. So if you don't mind being patient, we'll start in a few minutes when others who aren't in the room can virtually join us. So stay tuned.
These potheads are going to read your report.
He reminded me that back in the 80s, Duke Meacham put on peaks and went out and cut down the cotton fields and took a whole bunch of gunmen along with him. And there was a black helicopter came down and they loaded up trucks with all the marijuana grow, drove it away, and then to show you the problems, one of the trucks, somebody let the tires out, the air out of the tires of the truck at night in front of a motel in the house. I said, if you're going to cut down the marijuana grow, you get the fuck out of there as soon as possible.
When I was a reporter,
Hey, team. Good morning. I'm not on? I'm not on. My problem. Okay. Speaking to the lapel. All right, good. Good morning. We have ignition. We're on the internet. We're live. So I'm Felicia Marcus, the chair of the board. Today is Tuesday, February 3rd at 9:10 a.m. The meeting's called to order. The board members I have with me are Vice Chair Fran Spivey-Weber to my left, Board Member Didi Diadamo to her left, to my right, Board Member Tam Dodek, and to her right, Board Member Stephen Moore. Mr. Howard, will you introduce who's assisting today from the senior staff?
Thank you. To my left is Chief Counsel Michael Laufer. John Bishop is here today but stepped out a minute ago, and Karen Turgovich is on vacation. Assisting the board are Janine Townsend and Courtney Davis.
Great, thank you very much. For those of you who haven't been with us, the building has emergency evacuation procedures. Look for the exit nearest you, and if you hear an emergency sound, grab your stuff, grab your friends, and leave the building cautiously. And we reconvene near the corner of 10th and J. If you want to hang out with us, then you'll know when the all clear comes, and you can come back into the building. Obviously, you can do whatever you want once you've gone outside. Most important item, please take your cell phones and turn them off or put them on silent so as not to disturb anyone. And then the meeting is being webcast and recorded, as I mentioned earlier. So when you come up to speak at the podium, make sure, so there you go. Speak into the microphone. It's hard to do. So that way everybody can hear you, not just up here, but in the back of the room and on the web. All right. Our first item is the presentation of Superior Accomplishment Awards. Darren Polimas, you're on deck.
Good morning, board members. Today, in kind of an awkward stance between you and the crowd here.
You can turn your back on us.
Turn your back on you? Yeah.
It'd be just fine.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I'm not being rude.
Right.
I get to present two Superior Accomplishments Awards to very deserving staff, and to get them up here so that they can blush the whole time that I'm talking about them, could I have Jennifer Toney and Pete Stammis come up, please? Thank you. So as you recall, it almost seems like an eon ago for some measures, but the drinking water program joined us here at the Water Board family. And so to complete our water portfolio, might I add. And there was some very aggressive scheduling put together that said, gee, let's write a whole new policy from nothing for the drinking water program so that it mirrored our clean water SRF program. And we've got like 4 months to do that in. So, of course, what we did is we looked for two exceptional staff that could lead the charge and got a bunch of hands busy working on that. Jennifer has been with Clean Water SRF for some time. I remember her when I was there like a time ago, back when she was a bright young little face. Now she's all seasoned and ready to crank. And then Pete was one of our new additions, very welcome to our family and very capable. And these two together produced a remarkable document in a very short order amount of time that is already actually starting to serve its purpose. We've got it up and running as of January 1st. We're still tweaking it as we go, but we like to continuously modify our policies as we go along. The Clean Water SRF one, we're still modifying all these years later to continually make it better. But they gave us such a good start, and I'm just really pleased to be able to present this to them for that excellent work. It really made it go seamless, all the time they put into it, and the coordination that they were able to pull off with putting everybody's thoughts together to make the policy was great. So here you go. Yes. We're going to go over in the
Yeah,
corner
we're
on the
going to take
steps.
pictures over there.
Excellent.
Let's see. Does this work? Can you hear me? All right, we'll figure that out. All right, let's turn way up, see if it'll work from here. Does that work enough? Is that good enough? So it'll, okay, great. One note about schedule for today, just for people's planning, we'll take a short break, 10 or 15 minutes after item 4. And then we'll be taking a lunch break because our afternoon item won't be starting until 1 o'clock. So it depends. We may go longer in the morning, but my guess is we will actually have a lunch break today. These are all public comment speakers. We're now into the public forum part of our agenda, and it is one in which the public can comment to us on any item that is not formally on the agenda. And everybody has 5 minutes? Great, okay. Thank you. Our first speaker is Jeanette Vosberg from the Grassroots Coalition, followed by Tim Stroshane from Restore the Delta. Oh, you had a video.
Remarks first. Hi, I'm Jeanette Vosberg with Grassroots Coalition in Los Angeles. And I'm their outreach coordinator, and I participated back in 2005 through about 2008 in the Bionah Watershed Task Force. And during that time, I also attended Santa Monica Bay Restoration Commission meetings. And I became convinced at that time as we walked the Bionah Creek that probably the only answer that was really viable to capturing stormwater to meet the TMDLs would be to look at, in LA anyway, the 60% of the homes that were taking up the space in the Los Angeles footprint. And so with that, I focused my attention on our yard and what we could do about it because we had the money and a half an acre yard, I focused my attention on actually experiencing what I was talking about, and also did that on our commercial parcels and our industrial parcels that we owned. And what I've found more than anything that worked was just simple removing ground, 3 feet by 3 feet by 3 feet deep, and adding a gravel zone and maybe putting something pretty on top, or doing trenching that was a couple feet deep, adding gravel and putting something pretty on top.
Like French drain type.
Like French drains, yeah. And so the video that I have is showing you the yard, but we also did probably 5,000 or 6,000 feet of pavers on our commercial property. Anyway, this video will show why I'm convinced that you need to reach out to homeowners in a more significant way. And I did have a handout, but I didn't submit it soon enough, so it's not being distributed. But I will endeavor to send that for next time.
Okay. Or
so
just
that
send
you
it to
can.
us and we'll all get it.
Pardon me?
Just send it to us and we'll get it.
Okay, I will.
That'd be great.
Anyway, with that, the video kind of speaks for itself. And the other thing that I talked to John Bishop about was actually coming up with something that one would tell on the front of the bill or on the envelope how much gallons of water we as homeowners use each billing period. And secondly, coming up with like a 24-month program which would show water capture ideas, one a month on the envelope or within the water bill. And with that, I'd like to just show this, and I will send out what I've written.
Great.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Yes, for YouTube. And this is the YouTube I created to show you what we've done on our own yard.
Great.
Because I think that if you don't walk the walk, you can't really talk the talk.
We should connect with Melanie. Oh. Do you, The link's probably too complicated to. Do you want to? What do you search for to get it? Because I want to at least make sure that the people
I've
listening
given
can go
them-
look for it themselves online.
Tell you what, if under the circumstances, since it isn't being shown,
Yeah.
I have a handout that I wanted to turn in, and if you could make an exception, then the link is in my single-page handout.
Yeah.
And also, since I have a little extra time, I was in the printing and mailing and design business. We did everything from the concept to the mailbox. And so my idea originally when I talked to John Bishop was to create something that would allow you the 24 months to show what could be done.
Mm-hmm.
But in searching the internet, I came up with Arizona, and Arizona has done an absolutely remarkable job of doing an online presentation. And what I suggested in my remarks that I wanted to hand out was that everyone go and look up the Arizona link that I've given you in this handout. And then that link would show you that they have like over 150 ideas on ways to capture water, beautifully done, you know. And so I was thinking that I think it was Eric, but somebody else maybe, I had talked to them about the possibility of just going to Arizona and asking them if you could buy the rights to use them and just use that. It would be very fast, and it would be a way to educate the public, which I think is really essential to meet the TMDL. So
Great.
can I turn these in for you?
Yeah, definitely turn it in, and
Okay.
we'll
I've got copies, so I'll go get the copies for you.
okay.
Thank you very much.
That's great, and thank you for your initiative on that. It's interesting because there are a number of water agencies that are doing really good things, too. And if you want to, please stay around, because after our conservation regulation update on the gross numbers, we're having a presentation from the Association of California Water Agencies and the Department of Water Resources on the SaveOurWater.org campaign, which is the state, our
Right.
state site. So it'd be good, and then you could, talk to those folks as well. It'd be great.
Okay, I'd be very interested in any participation. I don't have a gainful employment, and I'm very interested in this, and I have a fair amount of talent in
Right.
the area. So
We'll also
anything I
connect you
could
with
do, I would
folks
be
in
happy
LA
to.
who are working on similar things to link
Yeah,
you up.
I know
and doing
Melanie
fact-
Winter
Yeah,
personally.
Melanie's
and-
one, but
Yes.
there's a lot going on. So
Oh,
we're
I
happy
know.
to help.
I know that. I'm not trying to upstage them. I mean,
I know.
this is just, I'm just saying, personally, this is what I've done.
Right.
So I'll give you the handouts.
Thank
I'll
you.
just assemble them. Thank you very much.
Great way to start the day. I appreciate it a lot. Next, Tim Stroshane, followed by Stephen Green from Save the River Association.
Good morning. I'm Tim Stroshane with Restore the Delta. Like Board Member Tam Doduk and Chair Felicia Marcus, I attended the Water Law Symposium on Reasonable Use about 10, 11 days ago in San Francisco, and found it very interesting. And it got me thinking about reasonable use. The symposium's main topic really came to the fore in the California Supreme Court decision in 1903, Katz v. Walkinshaw, which was a groundwater case. But it was not until widespread public outrage unleashed after the San Joaquin River case of Herminghaus v. Southern California Edison that Californians got to vote on actually applying the principle of reasonable use to all surface water right holders, whether they were riparians or appropriators. In November 1928, California voters overwhelmingly passed Proposition 7, a constitutional amendment that established reasonable use doctrine in the Constitution and as a principle in state law. And that section of the Constitution today is Article 10, Section 2. And it says in part, and this is the part I wanted to bring to your attention, it says in part, the general welfare requires that the water resources of the state be put to beneficial use to the fullest extent of which they are capable, and that the waste or unreasonable use or unreasonable method of use be prevented. One attorney named Samuel C. Wheel back in the 1920s, helped to craft the amendment and helped craft Proposition 7. He argued that this passage means that the water used consumptively upstream must be returned to the stream in as good a condition as possible, because it must serve over and over again the remaining beneficial uses downstream. This reuse, in essence, it presumes a kind of water recycling, and reuse as a necessary consequence and component of all water resource development. This reuse, he argued, is the real meaning of beneficially using water to the fullest extent of which it is capable. It does not mean, nor does it condone, emptying the stream of its fresh water or overdrafting groundwater basins indefinitely. If all the beneficial uses along a stream are to be served, Wheel argued, the quality and quantity of water has to be used carefully and efficiently by each successive user along the way in order to attain that fullest extent goal. We at Restore the Delta are concerned that people would like to forget that the health and beneficial uses of the Delta are connected to the health of the bay downstream. Whole recreational, tourist, fishery, agricultural, and commercial economies are tied to the health of the Bay Delta estuary, this connected whole. At Restore the Delta, we think this passage of the California Constitution is the basis for water solutions for all of California. And my question of the day for you is, how does the board and staff feel about this passage that I cited in practical terms? I was just wondering if we could take a few minutes and hear about that.
I think it's great. I mean, it's what we've struggled to do. I would love that citation to that.
I'd be glad to get it to you.
That'd be great. I haven't
Sure.
read him before, but that tells sort of the full story of what it is we're trying to do.
That was what I thought when I read it.
Yeah.
So I'll be sure to share that with you.
Yeah,
Does
great.
staff care to offer any comment? Since it's public forum.
Well, obviously, conversations involving waste and unreasonable use suffuse a lot of the board's conversations and regulatory activities, and in all of our water rights decisions, it's an underlying finding that we have to make. But, for the most part, as the board is going forward, as all of you are aware, there have been many manifestations of the waste and unreasonable use doctrine in terms of the way it's been codified in our responsibilities to carry out our various planning activities and permitting authority as well. So, when we look to things like the Bay Delta Plan, ultimately the water rights decisions will be governed by principles of waste and unreasonable use. But as we're undertaking the planning activities under Porter Cologne, there is a lot of that balancing consideration that feeds into the types of considerations that Mr. Shoshane's referring to. So, it's a powerful tool. This board certainly has not exercised it to the full extent, but has certainly been more vigorous in the last few years looking at it. I think the one caution that we regularly hear is it's not a prophylactic one-size-fits-all. While the board has the capability in its planning and regulatory functions to exercise that waste and unreasonable use authority, as the courts upheld recently in the Russian River Frost regulations case, the Light versus State Water Resources Control Board case, and had been upheld previously, it nonetheless requires a very careful factual consideration. And it's definitely one of those items that while this board and the courts are in many respects the final arbiters, waste and unreasonable use really often tends to be in the eye of the beholder.
Right, exactly. And it's our job to think on behalf of all beneficial users of water and find that sweet spot. So that's why I like the quote a lot. It's a different way of saying it than we've said it before, but it's the same thing we say all the time and how we're seeking, particularly in our planning processes, but really as we look at everything, how to manage that for the betterment of all, if we can. So.
Right. Well, thank you for
Thank
considering the question, and good day to you.
Thank you for bringing it to us this morning. This is a fun public forum. This is helpful. Mr. Green from Save the River Association, followed by Alan Wade from Sarah.
My name is Stephen Green. I'm president of Save the American River Association. This will not be fun. After years of complaints from environmental groups and fishing groups about toxic runoff from marijuana grows and illegal diversion of water at Sproul Creek and other waterways around the state, your staff finally got out 2 weeks ago and inspected Sproul Creek. They found possible violations according to your news release, and in way of enforcement action, they've decided that they're going to give these pothead growers a report on how they can correct their violations. A report. That's your version of enforcement. Your board's own study on limited data concluded that between 2006 and 2010, the number of polluted rivers, streams, and lakes in California increased by 170%. I'm sure that board member Spivey Weber is very familiar with the Supreme Court's ruling in 1983 in the case of National Audubon Society versus Superior Court. The court ruled that protecting the public trust is an affirmative duty, one that government cannot repudiate or deny. It is not optional, it is a mandatory duty. There, under the doctrine of the public trust, governments have a fundamental duty of environmental stewardship to maintain and sustain natural resources, amenities for the general welfare of our society. You have adequate staff to be policing our waterways. When I was in the Central Valley Board's offices in October, in the enforcement unit, a man was sitting at his desk playing a video game. We have informed the Attorney General that your board is not performing mandated enforcement actions. We have also asked appropriate committees of the Assembly and the Senate to hold oversight hearings on the functions of this board. So the question remains, why are you not taking enforcement actions? Why are you not citing growers and confiscating crops? Can I have an answer?
I had a question. I think I'll defer to Michael on enforcement, but enforcement, we do not have massive enforcement capacity. We now have capacity, which is fabulous, that we were given in the budget to be able to focus on this. And in this particular case, we've also gone on law enforcement raids on some other illegal grows. What has happened is, I think, a strategy of going in first and educating folks, which is what we've done in every other context. You start there and then you escalate. I think that's the strategy, but we take it very seriously. We know it is a huge issue around the state, and we finally have capacity to do something about it. That's what the focus of that particular enforcement action is, and frequently it does lead to compliance, and then you go with stricter enforcement with folks that don't comply. I mean, that is sort of a standard thing to do. But we take it very, very seriously. I understand why you're unhappy about it, but that's the strategy that was taken in this particular case. And Michael, if there's anything more or less I should be saying in an enforcement context, I'm happy to. I totally get it, and we're happy to sit down and meet with you and talk about it more.
Well, I think what Ms. Marcus is getting at is, the board, either whether it initially may be regional boards or the State Water Board, may end up sitting in an adjudicative capacity. And so the board members are not always privy to the specific enforcement decisions. And much like a DA doesn't show his or her cards on enforcement actions, I think the press release reflects that there are decisions being made within the enforcement team. What I would encourage, if he hasn't done so already, Mr. Green, to do is contact Chris Kerrigan, who is the director of the Office of Enforcement and has been the architect in many respects of the marijuana enforcement activities that the boards, in conjunction with local district attorneys, the Department of Justice, Department of Fish and Wildlife, has been undertaking recently, so we can get perhaps a more complete picture of what the strategy is.
That's right, because he can talk to
Well-
them at more depth than we can at this point.
I have been out with your enforcement teams, and they do very little. I think your strategy is doomed to fail. Thank you.
Mr. Wade?
My name is, excuse me, my name is Alan Wade. I'm the secretary to the board of the Save the American River Association, former president. I live in Sacramento. I've been retired from the California State University, Sacramento, for 20 years. During the last 15 of those years, I have spent an inordinate amount of time monitoring and viewing and testifying before your Central Valley Regional Board. I can't say I know their works intimately, but I have tried to. In the early days, in the early part of this period of this century, we were able to talk to board members occasionally. They gave us valuable information. We gave them valuable information. Now there is no communication whatsoever. They will not talk to us. We receive nothing from them except materials that we have asked for under the Public Records Act. In fact, I also, by the way, am here, as Mr. Green, my colleague Steve Green is, to really inspired by this media release saying you're going to look into voluntary compliance with people who are essentially criminals and misusers of the public trust. The Sproul Creek apparently dried up in large part due to their activities, according to your own press release. I can't imagine that law enforcement has not got to them much, or, well, I can imagine, but it's unfortunate. At any rate, I'd like to focus on the issue of voluntary compliance and the matter of self-reporting and self-regulation. This is really a snare and a delusion. This is Mad Hatter's logic, if you will. Sorry, but that's what it amounts to. I've seen this over and over again for many years in the Central Valley's feckless efforts to Central Valley Regional Board's feckless efforts to try to control some of the foothill communities and their continuously and wanton discharges into the Lower American River. One of them, of course, is Colfax. The other one is Folsom. In the situation of Folsom, I accompanied your enforcement team after many months and months of complaint from citizens on a tour of the sewers in Folsom. We went down and sniffed the Lower American River at Lake Natoma, and the hydrogen sulfide smell is overwhelming. The sewer system in Folsom absolutely defies ordinary logic and common sense, to say nothing of the laws of hydrodynamics. How you manage to get 130 diameters of pipes to go into an aging 27-inch diameter pipe to convey it into the Sacramento County treatment system is beyond belief. We informed the enforcement team about that, and what did they say? We'll ask the city. Well, the city was removed from their NPDES permit which was rescinded in 2007 by the action of this board. We protested that action. We're told that we had no standing. And since that time, we have seen no changes whatsoever in the Folsom sewer system, except reports from we attended a board meeting 2 years ago, the Central Valley Board, pointed out to the board that the reports that the city had given were obviously totally negated by the fact that the city council had just appropriated $137,000 to buy 5 new flow meters to measure the sewers and the flow through the sewer system. We learned that those meters miraculously went dead along about 2007 and gave absolutely no data. So we don't know whether those have been reinstalled. We asked your enforcement team to look into it, and what they said was, we'll ask the city. Well, go ahead and ask the city, and what do you get? The Central Valley Board, on the day we reported that, turned around and gave the city essentially an award for public achievement on the grounds of what wonderful work they'd done with their sewer system. Nothing has happened. The system is being overwhelmed constantly. The manhole covers are bolted down, which makes absolutely no sense. It's not supposed to be a pressurized system. At any rate, we could go on, and I hope we will not, but I hope we will be able to sit down with some member of your staff and show him or her, somebody who will listen and not say, well, we'll ask the city. I'd like to talk with somebody that will listen to the evidence we have that that system is totally flawed and a danger to the public trust.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention, and we will look into it. I was not aware. All right, thank you very much. Very interesting public comment morning. Appreciate it. Work to do. All right, next minutes. Yeah. If you don't mind, yeah. Good. Great. Yeah, if they're short.
Yeah,
great.
they're just a few seconds.
This is great.
There's a little portion. I did something that isn't really sanctioned because I'm a curious cat and I just wanted to see what would happen. So what I did is, probably illegally, I tunneled under the sidewalk after we created a 24-inch swale in our parkway. And that 24-inch swale, at about 2 feet down, I put a pipe under the sidewalk into our yard and just dug a hole so that when the water came in from the street, because there's a lot of water coursing down the street when it rains. And so what I was thinking is that if a few people, and this obviously would have to be done, when I showed Melanie Winter, she almost had a heart attack.
I suspect many people in the Bureau of Engineering would too.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, this is just an experiment. It has to be done properly. But anyway, what happens is with just in a few minutes of any rain,